You're helping me a little bit, Will. Oh, I wanted my coffee a little bit. Hey, Dr. Rob Kiltz, how's everyone doing? CMY Fertility. We're going to be talking about ketogenic adaptation. We have Maria Emmerich, who's joining us shortly. Lots of live stuff coming up. And your questions are welcome in the whole process.
We'll be able to see her pretty soon.
Yeah. And I'm going to do this guy over here.
Maria, if you're there, just go ahead and drop a comment, and then we can see that you're there, and we'll bring you on split screen. Let's get
Yes.
Party started.
Welcome to everyone. And the intention is to talk about ketogenic adaptation related to fertility. Welcome to everyone.
Don't see Maria yet.
Maria's coming. She's in Hawaii. We may have a little bit of technicals for a minute, so just hang on to everyone. Hi there, Emily, Jessica. How's it going? You know, we're still working on this whole process. Technical stuff is always great, isn't it, huh? And remember, share, like, love, everything. But ultimately, remember, love is the best thing for all of us to focus on in ourselves and everything and everyone around us. All right, let me just go. What do we want Maria to do? Comment?
Yeah, she needs to comment.
We're getting there. We're getting there. And we're just going to keep an eye out for.
And Maria, if you're there,
we're gonna lock into Maria in just 2 seconds here. So everyone, thanks for the patience on the technical side.
she might be going to.
You get on. Why don't you just get her on the line real quick, and she can. We're going to communicate directly with Maria.
Hi, Maria. Sorry, we're on the CMY Fertility page now, not the CMY Healing Arts. Sorry,
All right, hang on there. Penny, Carrie, hi. Beef, and more beef. Beef farmers, we're really grateful. But remember, lamb, pork, all others are really good in this diet. But remember, as a vegetarian, we're finding more and more there's... Maria's coming on in about 2 seconds here. All right. I'm assuming everyone, give us a second. Maria's coming on. All right. Hey, Maria, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Dr. Kiltz?
We're excellent. I'm here with my nephew, Will, and we've got... we already got about 70 to 80 people showing up and joining us. And the intention, everyone's sharing with the world. Where are you at right now?
I am on the beach of Maui. You can see my little hut. I think someone slept here last night. So I'm hanging out under a tree. And the beach is right over here. The water. So yeah, that's where I'm hanging out today. Or just an hour, right?
So nature, how important it is to our lives.
Oh my God.
For us take.
I haven't put shoes on for like days, weeks. I'm grounding today. Awesome. Well, we're really grateful to what you've been sharing, and I'm gonna really just share out how Maria and Craig, her husband, have come out with the new keto, and was this the new version of ketogenic adaptation? And maybe you could tell us a little bit about that and how you got started in this process of ketogenesis. Well, I would say how I got started is when I was about 16 years old. I went to my doctor because I wasn't feeling well at that young age, and I left with 3 prescription drugs. I left with an antidepressant. I left with an acid blocker. My doctor actually told me she gets acid reflux when she drank water, and that it was totally normal. And I was like, okay, you said so. And
And I was also told that I had PCOS and that was just my fate. I could do nothing about it, which I know now is a total lie. But that same week, Dr. Kiltz, I went to the vet because my dog, Tiva, she was a beautiful golden retriever, but she was losing patches of her hair. And the first question the veterinarian asked me was, what are you feeding her? I've never heard that from a doctor except for you. And you know what? We went home. We changed her diet. Her hair grew back beautifully. And I was like, wow, could food really be thy medicine? And sure enough, I changed my diet, never filled those drugs. And I like to call this the happy diet because I've never been so happy, and to look back at what I was at 16. I mean, I'm getting to be in my 40s and I feel like the healthiest I've ever been. And so that's what made me start this ketogenic lifestyle. I decided right then and there that I wanted to go to school for nutrition and exercise physiology. I love sports. I always was the heavy kid in all the sport activities. So tying those two together, I loved it. I was passionate about it. However, when I went to college, I met the love of my life, and I wanted to be a mom, and he was really awesome. He's like, let's adopt kids, because he knew that was going to be my fate. So we started adopting, but he lost his job, and we pretty much lost everything, including the adoption process, which is very expensive. But you know what? Sometimes we're not listening to our life's purpose, and things happen that make us really... I might cry.
Take your time, Maria. Take your time. We really enjoyed this story. It's such a passion and emotion for all of us. We want to...
But it really pushed us in the right direction because we listened to what the universe was telling us to do. And not only... My mom told me that my kids weren't born yet when all this was going on, and you know what, she was right, because my two little boys were totally meant for me. And this life, I mean, I'm just so blessed. We started writing. I started writing at the library in my parents' cabin way up in the Northwoods of Wisconsin, and people liked what I had to say, and I wrote in a non-traditional way. I write a lot of stories of what I've gone through, whether it be in my family or my life, and how to apply that to your life to make it successful. So rather than a real sciencey book, I want it to be easy for people to read. And what warms my heart is that people say they read it in 2 days from beginning to end. But that's kind of how I got started in a nutshell.
Well, it is. I know you've adopted two beautiful children. The passion about family and children, and you found so much to help people. And I know when I found you, it was this attraction that was really trying to be and speak the words of food and diet and health and wellness in a simpler way, a language that people could understand, rather than such a stodgy, standard American doctor mentality.
I don't need to use those big words.
Well, I think what we're working to do, and maybe you can tell in a short nutshell, when we talk about ketosis or ketogenesis, what are we really talking about?
What keto is where you eliminate carbohydrates as much as possible. We like to joke that we're carnivores. And then you hit your protein goal. So I love having strong muscles. And so there's, you want to hit a certain percentage of your lean mass. And it's about 0.7 times your lean mass. If you want to figure that out, I can help you. I have a keto calculator at mariamindbodyhealth.com. Search keto calculator. You type in your lean body mass, it gives you your macros for how many carbohydrates to aim for, how many grams of protein to aim for. And depending on your goal, that's how you want to use fat, whether it be, if it's just for fertility reasons, you turn that fat lever up a bit. If you wanted to lose weight, you turn that fat lever down because you're going to utilize your body fat. If your body's already high fat, you will use that to make ketones. That's something that is frustratingly, that's why we wrote keto, because I used to be considered the crazy lady, 10, 20 years ago with this diet, but now it's coming out of the woodwork and everyone says you need to eat 80% fat. Well, if your body is already high fat, you want to tap into that fat storage, and you're never going to get into the fat flux if you just keep consuming excessive amounts of fat, even though you're full. Does that make sense?
Well, it's interesting because what I've been learning a little bit about this is that by calories, there's more calories per gram of fat than from carbs or protein.
Right.
So if you're consuming a lot of fat, then ultimately you're going to be gaining. But what's interesting is when you're eating more fat, your appetite is more suppressed.
Right.
You feel better.
Totally.
And
that's why I always ask, what is your goal? Because if your goal is something other than weight loss, then it's fine to turn that. Like my kids eat keto. I don't limit their fat intake whatsoever. But if somebody's body is already high fat, you will use your own body fat to make ketones, okay? It's all about oxidative priority, which is in that book. So, but if it's for fertility reasons, you want a lot of that cholesterol because cholesterol is going to make those healthy hormones. So it depends on your goal. And I'm very direct with people. What is your main goal? Because we're going to work on that.
Well, and that's so ultimately in the CNY fertility realm, what we're working to share this idea is one, okay, what you put in here. So when you're reading these really great stories, you're building your brain's ideas and understanding of how the body works.
Yes.
And then you're learning to understand, okay, what do I put in here that's going to help the Ferrari for all of us function in a much better way? And that if we can help you conceive naturally first, and or help on this journey of whether you're doing assisted reproduction or wherever you're going, and at the same time we're going to help with your general health and wellness, which is ultimately, if you're not successful in the fertility journey as you think it's supposed to be, know that the book is open to a myriad of opportunities, including adoption, donor eggs, donor embryos, but natural is still where we want to take you. And that's why this ketogenic adapted lifestyle, the fertile keto plan is where I'm trying to sort of get us to a point where we can understand why fat.
Yes, exactly. I was just going to say, for me, I grew up on a terrible diet, and I would be really, even when I was starting my journey on the ketogenic lifestyle, I'd be really good during the week, and I would be really bad on the weekends. And that's why I'm so passionate about encouraging people to not mess with their body at all, because instead of focusing on the foods that you can't have, focus on all the awesome foods you thought were bad and you can have. And when you step back and really make this a lifestyle, you could change your fate. I messed with it for too long, and that took my fertility, so I don't judge people, but I'm harsh on people because I want them to have success, and have the success they want, basically. Yeah.
Well, I know you do a lot of coaching and the personal directions for individuals, couples that are going through this. because really what I'm learning this is about is how can I inspire you to change what you're doing in your daily life, and recognizing that we are all individually responsible for what we purchase at the market, put in our basket, take home, or wherever we're at, what we put in our mouths.
Yeah.
And what we're learning, and this is the part that I didn't even know when I started reading your stuff and before, is that we have zero requirements for carbohydrates in our diet. That just threw me, and I know my colleagues I talk to are, no way.
Yep.
Amazing.
It is. And when people think, even here, people ask, like, if I don't eat a sweet potato, how am I going to get those nutrients? And I will show you any ketogenic food that has more nutrients than kale, blueberries, all of these things that we think have all of these nutrients in. They are found in animal proteins. And, you know, that's where they're at. And I will show you any food, especially beef liver, blows all of those foods out of the chart. And you're thinking, well, I don't like beef liver. Well, I'll tell you my secret. I don't like it either. So what my husband does is he grinds it up and he'll hide it in hamburger. And so when I make chili or hamburgers or anything with that ground beef, you don't even know that it's there. You're getting a huge bang for your buck with nutrients, but all of those charts are in the book.
Well, I'm just, you have an amazing variety of books and food plans. And what I've been telling my clients is pick 5 and pick the 5 things that you really resonate and love and focus on those things, because sometimes the variety will become overwhelming.
I remember meeting you, and you said variety is not the spice of life. It is a recipe for disaster, because you're so right. If you go to a buffet and you have like 10 different flavors on your plate, when your mind gets bored, you're going to switch flavors and you keep eating even though your body's full. But, you know, eating a ribeye like you do for dinner, there's a point where it's like, I'm done, I'm stuffed, I'm finished. Heather's asking, I only can eat so many eggs, sausage, and bacon every day. I will not have any of that today. And so, Heather, I love food. I grew up loving food. You do not have to eat boring stuff. This is why, I mean, I have about 11 books out. None of the recipes overlap. There's so many things that you can pick from that you love. I mean, I even have popovers in there, Heather. Like, I eat ice cream every day. I think you do too, Dr. Kiltz, right?
Well, and so I learned from you, but if you Google Dr. Rob Kiltz's steak and ice cream recipes, and it's all really driven from what you've shared. And so I always say a variety is the spice of death and disease. Yeah. And sides are not good. So if you have a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband or wife, sides are not good. And so what we're really learning to understand better is the Ferrari is this, right? Expensive, irreplaceable, valuable. We take care of our automobiles better than ourselves.
Yeah.
And what you're really sharing is these ideas in Maria Emmerich's Ketogenic Adaptation, and it's mariamindbodyhealth.com. Is that right?
Yes.
And just send your family members, your friends there, because what I've seen, diabetes goes away in 2 weeks, hypertension gone in 2 weeks, high cholesterol gone in 2 weeks. And
A1C's going down in a matter of no time.
Bowel problems, skin problems, hair problems, you name it. Could you touch a little bit on inflammation and how ketogenesis and ketosis may help with that?
Absolutely. You know, inflammation is the stem of all diseases, if you think about it. And what causes inflammation? Sugar. And when I say sugar, I'm also meaning carbohydrates, because carbohydrates have one fate. They turn into sugar in your body. Even when you put a cracker in your mouth, it is going to taste sweet if you really step back and think about it, because it's turning into sugar in your bloodstream. We know this with, diabetics, right? And if you want to get rid of the inflammation, whether it be in your gut, joint pain, whatever it is, your heart health, you have to eliminate carbohydrates. You know what's really sad? Only 8% of celiacs, those are people with gluten allergies, really heal. And that's because they're replacing gluten-free, these, breads and pastas with gluten-free products that are made with rice flour, which rice flour has about 100 more grams of carbohydrates, calories, and 50 grams more of carbohydrates. And that's causing more inflammation in their gut. And so they never actually heal that gut.
Well, this is an amazing story because I'm concerned. So there are top 8 foods that we're allergic to: seeds, nuts, some fruits, vegetables, eggs, milk, seafood, shellfish. Interesting is that almonds and almond milk is a highly allergic substance. And that's what I'm finding, and we're substituting milk to something else. And the interesting part is that, again, sugar causes glycation. And I ask all of us, look up glycation, where glucose binds to everything in our body and makes it dysfunctional. And thus it causes that inflammation that you're talking about. And, most people don't know kale and lettuce and celery is sugar. And so when we're consuming 5 meals a day or snacks in between with I call it nature's toilet paper, and it's used, which is all the green leafy vegetables that we are washing as organic and clean, but actually maybe introducing yeast, bacteria, all sorts of other microorganisms that are deadly to us, but they don't kill us fast mostly. It's a slow and deliberate death. It first starts in the gut, and that inflammation just seeps to every organ of the intraabdominal space, causing vasculitis, and it travels everywhere. And so now I know that you limit the number of carbs, or I know we talked about vegetables. Can you tell me a little bit about the vegetables that you like to kind of stick around?
It's basically just for if you need a little flavor or crunch or texture. It's not to be mistakenly think that you need a big vegetable side to get the nutrients in. So if you need a fried onion on your keto burger, I'm okay with that, but, or like making chili. Chili's not the same if you don't add some tomato sauce, right? So it's, that's technically a fruit, right? But olives, olives would be a great healthy ketogenic fruit. Yeah.
I do. I get a martini, Tito's, extra dirty blue cheese stuffed olives. That's my only vegetable that I might have every few weeks. One.
Okay. So that type of stuff, thinking of it more as like garlic for flavor and things like that, rather than eating a big thing of like sauteed spinach or kale. I don't know. I don't want to eat that anyway. I'm not going to make my kids eat it. So, that's just how I roll. I'm a pretty cool mom.
Now, I just got finished rereading Robert Atkins' original diet book, and because he really was a phenomenal guy, brought some ideas that he actually was slaughtered out in the standard American Doctor press. But I know he uses a lot of fatty meat and some salads, and I did just get a question here about again. Well, where does all this come from? And we're really looking and learning from Mother Nature in so many ways. And I've always said that lions and eagles are the symbols of strength. That it is true that we can eat pretty much anything and survive. But as you've shown in your books, how the incidence of cancer, heart disease, obesity, diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol is all just going up and up and up. And yet we're eating more fruits, vegetables, and lean meats and exercising more. There's something that isn't fitting in the mix.
No, you're totally right. And I mean, I get people off of blood pressure medication within weeks, and it happens when they're eating yummy food. What's interesting is the women or the wives usually start the diet with meat, and their husbands are like, "This food is awesome." You know, I do not want to live off of broccoli and dry chicken breasts, so you will not find that in my cookbooks. I like short ribs, and hey, I'm a busy mom. I homeschool my children. Well, I should say my husband helps, but you know, like fast and easy is how I roll. So if you think that you don't have the time or the money to do it, I'll tell you, you'll save a lot of money by not buying cereal and milk and chips and all of those crackers and things like that. People tell me all the time they're now buying organic meats and they save about $2,000 a year on their food budget. But yeah, it takes a little time planning, but here on vacation, there are no excuses. The food will be ready for dinner time. I mean, there's no excuses because this is my body, this is my life. My kids are super healthy. On the way here once, I went to, on the flight, I went to the washroom. My little boy's 7. And the flight attendant, while I was gone, asked him if he wanted a soda. Well, we make sodas out of our soda streamer, which is just fizzy water. We add a little stevia to it. She gave him a Sprite. He never had one before. And you know what? I sat back down. That flight to Hawaii is very long, and I had puke all over me. And I think that's our natural reaction to a huge sugar dose, but we're giving our kids that nonstop. You know, and well, what he said, we use it as a teaching experience. He said, "Mommy, I never want sugar again in my life."
It's crazy. I also have a streamer that takes tap water. Actually, I live in Skinny Atlas Lake. It takes it from the lake. I then add a little carbonation, and I usually just take it straight. Right now, I'm just having a little bit of carbonated water with a little bit of a flavor in it. And, you know, that kind of helps kind of quench some of that desire for a fizzy drink. But fasting, intermittent feasting is what I call it. Changing it up from intermittently not eating to intermittently eating, which is the proper term. What I have the sense that we're really meant to eat 1 meal a day or less. I know you have a chapter on fasting in your keto book, and can you just maybe touch base a little bit on fasting and how it matters to us?
It's a natural process. It is such a natural. You know, it's so funny. I try not to look at Amazon reviews of my books because I'm too sensitive. And my husband said, "You got the best bad review." I said, "I don't know if I want to know it." And he said, "It's funny." He said, "I hate this diet. I'm always full." It's like that's the point. You're not supposed to be eating every 2 to 3 hours because you know what happens? Your body can never focus on healing bad cells. I believe this is why your appetite goes down when you're suffering from a disease such as cancer, because your body needs to focus on healing cells, but it can't if it's always digesting food.
Well, that's you know, I've been focusing a lot more on intraabdominal fermentation. And so if our bucket is always filled with food, especially carbs, it's always fermenting.
Yep.
That means it's making alcohol, aldehyde, heat, and methane gas, which are dangerous to our bodies. And so by reducing the carbs, actually simplifying them if you're eating them, not to have the fibrous stuff, it actually gets the carb, the glucose into the liver, which converts the fat faster, which reduces the glucose intravascularly, which makes us feel better. And as you said, it allows the body to do what it's meant to do, is be happy, healing, healthy, rather than constantly having a high glucose level, which is essentially a cocaine.
Yeah.
And cocaine is not good for us. It might make us feel good, but we're not meant to have it in our bloodstream in high levels for 24/7, 365.
Absolutely not. And you know, you will make enough glucose for your brain from the free fatty acids that are released. It's three fatty acids attached to a glucose molecule. I don't have another hand to do this. But as you release that, you know, releasing three fatty acids will create a glucose molecule. And so you make enough by eating zero carbohydrates. And, you know, fiber is a menace. If you have Crohn's, colitis, diverticulitis, you need to get rid of all of that stuff.
And from what I can tell, my bet is that all the diseases, including cancer, are directly related to intracolonic and intestinal inflammation, fermentation, and the byproducts of that. And so, you know, and alcohol is not good for us. And so if you have it from time to time, a little bit, okay, but that's not to say it's good for you at all. It is a toxin, 100%.
Right. In the book, we write about oxidative priority. Oxidative priority is a process of which your body uses different fuel sources. Number one is alcohol, because it's totally toxic and there's no storage site. So if you consume alcohol with a bunch of food, it's going to focus on burning the alcohol before it even touches the food. The food's going to go to your fat stores. It's not a good combination. You usually overeat. You say stupid things. Cut it out.
I want to get to a few questions here if I can. I know you may have answered one, and Doc Vaughn asked about, does it work in pregnancy?
Yes.
And it's amazing, as you say. If you look at the mammal world, mammals in general gestate for months and months and months without eating. The fat is the fuel for your fetus. And I believe that nausea and vomiting early in pregnancy is a safety mechanism not to put the toxic foods in your body, to save that fetus, to allow it to latch on and really get a good hold on that uterus. And so really, I believe ketogenic diets should be utilized throughout your life and throughout pregnancy.
Right. And so many women that I work with have done both. They've had a pre-keto life with a baby, pregnancy, and then they've had a keto baby. And they said it went way smoother. They never had the morning sickness. The birth, everything went so much easier. The birth weight was healthier. That they never go back to having a non-keto baby. But yeah, I hear that all the time.
Well, and then Penny wants to know a little about is dairy as HWC? What's HWC? And cheese allowed? Let's see. So
I guess
I don't know what HWC is, but in general, what is your thoughts on dairy in this whole process?
I believe she's talking about heavy whipping cream.
Okay. There we go. Now I learned a new one.
I will say that we, in the ketogenic world, you'll read that everybody's always against gluten, and how, you know, don't eat any gluten. However, dairy is a more common allergen than gluten is. And so you could be, I'm not talking about lactose. Lactose is the sugar found in milk. I'm talking about casein, which is the protein found in it, and it is a common allergen. So if you are dealing with a lot of miscarriages, if you're not seeing the results you want, my meal plans are dairy free. And believe me, I'm from Wisconsin. That's like blasphemy to say. It is a great saturated fat. However, there's other great saturated fats out there that you can replace for the time being to see if you do, in fact, have an allergy. My son does. He has little red bumps behind his arms, and he has seasonal allergies when he does consume any sort of dairy. And I'm talking about even organic butter. Does not agree with this little boy. It's fine for me. It's fine for many other people. But if you, in fact, are dealing with a lot of miscarriages, it is if you want to, you know it, people want a baby so bad, just cut it out for a while and see if that helps.
Well, it's interesting. Dave Osprey, Bulletproof Coffee, his wife at 41 ate butter, and voila. And we know that so the cow's milk, mini milks we're allergic to. And so I generally say it's whipping cream and butter. Those are the only fats, but you may be particularly allergic to those, so you may not be able to do those. And that's
not
where
everybody. I'm not saying everybody, you know.
Yes. And so cheeses, salamis, fatty meats that are cured, but you got to be careful, because if they're cured with a lot of sugar, it's not good for you. But the dry aged it adds a lot of tenderness and flavor. Let's see, Heather, allergic to dairy caused me to have a leaky gut and joints inflamed. And when you talk about, so inflammation is a local, distant, and total body effect. And so repetitive miscarriages, even genetic, or I should say chromosomal abnormalities associated with egg, sperm, and embryo are quite often de novo due to inflammation in the ovary, in the testicles, in the uterus, that actually damages that egg, sperm, and embryo, that causes the DNA fragmentation and damage, which causes the telomeres to have an abnormal division process and causes those abnormalities. So ultimately, the inflammation due to what gets into our body, whether we breathe it, it gets in through the skin, or we eat it, it's all getting in, and our body is constantly fighting these foreign antigens, these plant phytochemicals, the molecules that are in this variety of food that we're eating. And if the animal consumed the antigens that we're allergic to, that may be where we're getting the reactions to. And it takes but a smidgen, a micro drop of something to cause these allergies, doesn't it?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. The waves were crashing so loud.
We're listening. And so being in nature and just watching and listening to the sounds of nature can be very calming.
You know, I remember what I was going to say. You talked about how, pregnancy and fasting and all of that. Well, this morning I was out here. It was not even light out, and a huge humpback whale was flapping its big old tail. So I jumped on my paddleboard and tried to catch up with her and her baby. But what's interesting, humpback whales are keto. While they're here, there's no food for them to eat. This is where they mate and have their babies. They're here for about 4 months. They eat nothing. The babies have breast milk, but the water is so clear they have nothing to eat. They fast. They lose about 20% of their body weight until they swim back to Alaska to feast well. They fast well while they're pregnant. They feast well. But I just find that fascinating that they're keto whales, and they thrive. They do fantastic, but they use their body fat for fuel.
Well, so I believe that we burn zero sugar in our metabolism, and that we convert all amino acids and all simple sugars to fat in order to provide the acetyl-CoA from the fat for every single cell of our body. And after learning, I was watching Planet Earth and learned about the whale, but the bears, the penguins, so many mammals do that once they're pregnant. They don't eat. Yeah. And I believe if you understand the 10 to hundreds of thousands of years ago, we did not have the access of the healthy, clean, organic carbs ever.
We don't have a banana tree in Wisconsin.
Oh, and coconuts, another likely. You got to be careful, I believe, about coconut milk, coconut oil, because it's a seed oil. So our easy conversion for something, again, not everyone has these allergies, but you have to be careful when we think, it's healthy, it may not be as healthy as we suspect. So Chris Russell had a question about local dairy cream milk. And local sourcing is the very best. We use Side Hill Farms in Manlius, Pittsford Farm in Pittsford near Rochester. But there's so many local farms with free range chickens and grass-fed, local sourced beef, pig, lamb. Wherever you can find this local source, it's going to be the very best. Some milk, I'm not, like some whole milk is okay. If it's going to be the thing that you're consuming, remember, it's high in sugar. So it's not really the thing we're recommending for the 3 to 5 times a day. If you're doing these carbs once a day, maybe a little bit okay. But really, we're talking about plant and food allergies is probably way top of the list. And that's something I think we need to learn better how to identify that.
If you look at our cecum, it's not like the animals that, like even a cow, living off of grass, their stomachs actually ferment that grass into saturated fats. But, we can't do that. Our cecums look more like a lion. So, and that there's a photo of that in the book Keto that you have. But I mean, I'm strict. I would never drink or recommend whole milk.
Well, I agree with you, but I want to give a little bit from time to time. People consume these things, but remember the Ferrari, you don't put sugar in its tank from time to time because ultimately they're dangerous. I'm also of the concept, because you're right, these herbivores have bacteria in order to break down the carbs and simplify them so that the liver could convert them to fat. That's why the liver is like the liver is actually the most important organ of our body. And type 1 diabetics and liver failure patients can't make fat. That's why they get sick and die. And it's kind of an interesting concept that we really haven't listened to the liver enough. Any thoughts on the liver?
That's the thing. A fatty liver, it should be called carbohydrate liver, not a fatty liver, because that's what's causing the damage. And if you think about like thyroid disorders, T4 is converted into the activated T3 in the liver, not actually in the thyroid. So, stepping back and realizing what's actually causing, fatty liver, it's not fat. Again, it should be called carbohydrate liver.
It really is. And so heart disease and diabetes and infertility is a carbohydrate disease, is my opinion. And it's also that plant antigen and fermentation. We're allergic to these things, and glucose causes glycation and damage to those very, very, very sensitive cells in the ovary. And it's interesting, the thyroid gland is one of the most sensitive hormone producing glands. And so we're seeing, there's so many individuals, men and women, children, elderly, with thyroid dysfunction.
Yeah, it's really sad. And even like kids having fatty liver, it's because they're drinking a lot of things with fructose, like Gatorade, juice. They're not drinking alcohol. They're just getting a massive dose of fructose that they need to cut out. In the 3 to 5 times a day, and it's really marketed to our children, adults, and Gatorade, those types of sweet energy drinks, whichever style it is really providing too much sugar. And go ahead. I just get really frustrated with people who think, my kids are really skinny and active, and, they can eat whatever they want. I don't want to say no to them. In the book we write about, there's skinny diabetics. You do not have to be overweight to be diabetic. It just means that you have less fat cells but they're stuffed full. I had a 105-pound diabetic who ignored her signs so long that she's not only type 1 and she's now type 1 and type 2 because she ignored all the signs. And so you need to take, I mean, I grew up on a bad diet, but it's nothing like what I see in the grocery store today. And so I'm worried about the kids of the future because they're going to grow up. And I mean, I had a family with a type 1 son, and he goes to public school, and he got 100% on his math test. You know what the teacher gave him? Huge bag of Skittles. Why?
We're rewarding with food, and that sets up a Pavlovian experience of life. And that's where we have to begin to really share the story. When I go to the hospitals and see what we are feeding our patients, it's terrible. Yeah. So we're giving them the high carbohydrate diet and then giving them drugs that now they become addicted to. And it's nearly impossible, but it's not impossible. Right. It's completely possible that you can do this. And that's what we're sharing this whole process.
You know that, I mean, in an IV drip, you know, when they're on a feeding tube, do you know what they get? They get glucose and they get vegetable oils.
Well, interesting enough, so vegetable oils are not natural in our diet.
No.
And
that's so inflammatory. You want to get rid of inflammation, cut all of the vegetable oils, canola oil, all of them, get rid of them.
Well, it was interesting. I just found a ghee oil. And so how could there be a ghee oil? And it turned out they put grapeseed oil to make it liquid. And ultimately, we're trying to take something healthy and sort of kind of hiding something else bad for us. And that's the kind of the challenge. We're really not trying to fight.
Hold on, Katie. I need to address you. Katie's saying a question. I do know a lot about diabetes. The woman was type 2. She ignored it so long that she became also type 1. So the type 2 became type 1. Katie, I know what I'm talking about.
Well, Maria, my sister, had diabetes type 1 since she was a 3-year-old and died of it in her 50s. An amazing young woman, and maybe that's why I'm so connected to Maria Emmerich. Is Maria was my mother and my sister, but I've learned so much about diabetes, and the ketogenic diet was the original healing process for a diabetic. And so between seizure disorders and diabetes, ketogenesis was the way to treat the diabetic. And so the crazy part is that glucose causes diabetes and keeps you diabetic. Right?
And then you're born whether it's type, with type 1, an autoimmune disease, you could be born with it without, sugar causing that. So I think it's important to know that.
Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. What I believe, again, is that intrauterine, there's a high glucose and glycation intrauterine that causes damage to the pancreatic cells, like the thyroid and other glands, are highly sensitive to glycation, plus the plant antigens. So when we talk about autoimmune, what we're really talking about is an immunologic reaction to foreign particles, plant antigens, phytochemicals, and glucose, which ultimately cause every disease you and I know, including type 1 diabetes. So again, because the real answer is we don't know, and idiopathic, and I always say we are idiots. And there's no such thing as an autoimmune disease. They're immunologic reactions to particles, molecules that get in our body. And the number one killer is glucose, even intrauterine, because we're seeing so much gestational diabetes for a long time. This isn't a new disease. It's likely been going on for thousands of years. But now we're seeing such a craziness. In your book, you were talking about over 30% high cholesterol, obesity, and so many diseases. And that's why I really drive our patients. Go to Maria Emmerich. She's and her husband Craig have really honed a story. And I know you've written with Jimmy Moore. Anyone else that you recommend people to go to learn more about this lifestyle?
Well, I'm looking at a lot of questions. So Denise is asking about nightshades. In my book, Easy Dairy Free Keto, there's nightshade free meal plans. Again, a common allergen of nightshades, with migraines and pain, that type of stuff. Someone else asked, about macros. If you want to find out your macros, go to mariamindbodyhealth.com and search Keto Calculator. It's free. I help make your macros for you. Check that out.
What's a macro? What's a macro?
What?
What is a macro?
Oh, it's it's what you want to eat, like 10 grams of carbohydrates or less, 70 to 80 grams of protein. Everybody's different, and it's how many grams of macronutrients you want to eat.
So carbohydrate, proteins, and fat are the three macromolecules, and then there are the minerals and vitamins. But really, what we're really focusing on is the macronutrients.
Yeah.
And you do not require any carbs, but you do require fat and protein. Essential.
Right.
Okay. All right. There was a question from Emily about endometriosis and ketogenic diets, and my belief is that, again, the inflammation caused by the standard American diet in the intraabdominal cavity, which becomes systemic, which causes inflammation in and around the ovaries, the tubes, and the uterus, which causes endometriosis. So we look at it and think it's all related to something from the ovary, the tubes, of the uterus, but it is likely stimulated by, again, food, the damage of inflammation, fermentation, and by you going to a ketogenic diet, I believe we're seeing a tremendous amount of healing, reduction in endometriosis, and most importantly in our field is improvement in conception and reduction in miscarriages, which is really powerful. So the Maria Emmerich's ketogenic adaptation is really I call it narrow as an arrow will hit the target every single time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And there's so many questions going on. If you do want to have any of your questions answered, the website, mariamindbodyhealth.com, there's so much content on there about pregnancy or whatever you want. Just check it out. There's a lot of recipes on there if you don't want to buy a book. But yeah.
So nightshades are a plant type that actually may have some toxic phytochemicals and some immunogenic properties that some people are more allergic to than others. And the one thing I talk about is the iceberg. And so for some people, the tip of the iceberg we see in an immediate allergic reaction, a disease that is obvious, but the majority of it is silent endometriosis or bowel inflammation or other vasculitis or other neuritis that is really something you don't even notice until it becomes clinically serious. But it's all happening at a lower level. So the consumption of all these varieties of immunogenic phytochemicals, fermentating particles, and mostly glycogenic particles are really our damaging process. And so this diet, and I call it this Live It plan that Maria is sharing, is really something that if you're not suffering from something, you still should do it, because it's going to help reduce your risk of cancer and heart disease and diabetes, joint disorders, and all of these things. And it's quite an opposite concept. But the amazing part is our body requires fat.
Yeah.
And it doesn't require sugar.
Yeah.
And simply looking at this and practicing it. And I always say, you do something, do or do not, there be no try. And remember, you and I are the most valuable and expensive entities. And if you're not really learning and understanding what you're putting in your mouth, you're missing such a valuable lesson to help prevent and limit the diseases. Remember, we're going to die of oxidative stress at some point. You can't stop that. But in the meantime, what I've been learning at almost 62 next month, no exercise for 12 years, and I've been on the Maria Emmerich Ketogenic Adaptation for about 6 years now. Before that, I was Paleo Atkinsy, but I'm telling you, this is a home run. And I know we probably have only a few more moments. We wanted to cover this for about an hour. Go to mariamindbodyhealth.com, CNY Fertility. Maria and I are working on a book to integrate our ideas when it comes to fertile health. And we're really, really, really appreciative. What time do we have? All right. Do you want to hit on any other questions out there, Maria, or any other last minute thoughts or ideas that you want to share?
Someone mentioned that they were starting that 30-day ketogenic cleanse on a question here, to help with their fertility. And I do have a private group on Facebook called The 30-Day Ketogenic Cleanse, and we're starting a challenge on Monday. So we're all starting the cleanse on Monday. And the cleanse, I called it that because it touches on more than just food. It touches on what we're putting on our skin and all of that. So if you're looking for a support group, go to that group, click join, I'll approve you. And I answer all your questions there, and we're all doing it together. So check out that group. I think it helps. Sucralose is bad, yes.
And in my opinion, all the plant fake sweeteners, I say really no. So we got to be really careful about that. And in my opinion, if you're going to use sugar, use real sugar, sugar cane.
We're going to agree to disagree there.
Again, in my opinion, because it's closest thing, a little bit from time to time. That's what I put in my ice cream. I believe a little bit. But remember, if you're challenged with diabetes or hypertension or any of these diseases, you want to go to the Ferrari fuel. Okay? I'll give it up to Maria.
Well, someone's asking if you could post the link to the group. Maybe Will
will post a link, but there's also a CNY Fertility Facebook ketogenic group. We're really working to link our teams because we're sharing the story, and there's a bigger story because first, everyone's trying to prevent fertility, and then they've done that for so many years. And I talked to one of my clients earlier today, 20 years on the birth control pill, and I'm telling you, those things can be very dangerous for us. Yeah. And so now it's, you try so long not to get pregnant. Now you're fighting to get pregnant. And now the next level is, how do you take care of your pregnancy, your children, your family, to live without all these diseases that we require? I call it from the farm to pharma. The foods that get us sick require the pharmaceuticals to make us better. In between, it's our misery.
Yep.
How we doing, Will?
Good.
All right. Maria.
Trying to type in a comment here because everybody is asking, but you have to write in the. I can't do it, I guess. You have to type the, THE, 30, like the number, day ketogenic cleanse. because I'm seeing a lot of the questions that we already covered. Like, can I be keto while pregnant? We talked about all of that. So, yeah.
And remember, listen, and this is we're not here to claim this is bad, this is good. We're here to share a story. If you're suffering from something and you want to make it better, here's some ideas that, as a physician, I was taught completely opposite. And we know that so many people are suffering from the standard American diet. And I know in your book you talk about Ansel Keys and you talk about the Inuits and how our ancient food methods were far more healthy. So, so check out Maria, mindbodyhealth.com. Dr. Rob Kiltz at mindbodysmile.com, cnyfertility.com, and we're really helping. And we'll see you soon, Maria. Your best to your family, and thank you to all. And thanks everyone for sharing your thoughts and ideas. God bless.
Absolutely. And I just got a notice that my phone's gonna die. I have 1% left. So.
All right, Maria. God bless you. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.